Go ahead with a campus sound check. Donna Cataldo, downtown. Can you hear us?
I can hear you fine.
Great, thank you. Melanie or Keith at Polytechnic?
We can hear.
Thank you.
Can we?
Alejandra at West. I haven't heard you yet, Alejandra.
Okay. Now my mic is on. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, thank you. Is there a delay, or was it just getting the right button?
Getting the right button.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, welcome. Welcome to Senate meeting number 4. I hope that each one of you has had a pleasant Thanksgiving and that gathering of family and friends was renewing. In this somewhat unsettling post-election season, I have decided that an attitude of gratitude for all things big and small is good for my own mental health. And I was grateful for my own gathering of family and friends, but now I'm extroverted out. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to return to routine, that I have a routine to return to. I know that we're looking forward to the end of the semester, and I hope things go well for you. On a more sobering note, our thoughts are with the faculty at Ohio State University who experienced a tragedy on their campus today, and we send our concern to those who are injured for a speedy recovery. We'll now go into a quorum calculation. Please select the campus in which you're attending today's meeting. Every time I think it's slowed down, there's another one that comes. We're at 8:02 now. Three. Okay, go ahead. I think you can close it. All right. If Downtown Poly and West would verify those numbers, and I think we can eyeball these numbers here.
Kathleen, we seem to be missing 2 votes from West because we're 8 people here.
8 people, and what did West have? 6. Did 2 not get a chance to? Do we want to do West one more time?
But I don't know if it's after. Maybe it was after.
Just the people at West. Okay, just the people at West. Charles, Chuck is going to open it back up. Make sure we have the right calculations.
Hold on. Wait. Yeah. Okay, so now only West, right?
Only West.
Okay, go ahead.
Make sure all of your clickers are working. Okay, you got it. We're showing 11.
A couple people stuck in there.
Okay.
Wow.
It's not coming. Yeah.
Do you think we need to do the whole thing over again?
Mine didn't work.
We have a quorum.
Yeah, we're good.
We're good.
Probably.
But is West showing 2 less than they used to?
That's great.
Kathy, we seem to be, again, too short.
2 clickers are not working. Okay, from here on out, when we take a vote, we'll just hand count West, okay? One that matters. This next one will be a verification of the total, so let's look at the second question. All right, here is the quorum question to make sure that all clickers are working. And it says, who are the members of the Academic Assembly? That's the number of responses we got earlier. All right. The answer is C. Full-time faculty with fixed tenure or tenure-eligible appointments, academic professionals with multi-year or continuing appointments, and the Emeritus College. One of the reasons I highlighted the members of the Academic Assembly is that it's time to be thinking of next year's campus-based leadership. And Chris Kaisalka, who's the chair of the Committee on Committees, will be reporting on the survey sent to all members of the Academic Assembly asking for nominations for Senate leadership positions. A little bit later on, she'll be reporting on that. We now have 3 informational reports, and the first one is from Dr. Crow.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I wanted to just spend a few minutes with you in those minutes to address any questions or concerns, to talk about a specific topic. That is, I've heard from a number of faculty and staff about their concerns about the overall climate within the university, issues that have been communicated through various means of concern relative to some aspects related to hate speech, some aspects related to tenor of speech, some aspects related to a range of things. And so a number of faculty members have been concerned as to why I had not yet communicated regarding these. First, let me say to you that there is very little going on at the university that we don't know about, that we're not thinking about. We don't have someone thinking about in the sense of trying to determine everything that's going on at the institute to the best of our ability. And so you, the faculty and the staff, have received 2 communications recently regarding matters of conduct and matters of related to concerns or fears that faculty or staff might have. The first was from Provost Searle. I don't know how many of you got that message, but I assume most of you see that message. The second was a longer message from me regarding one group of students who had been concerned about where things were going relative to their lives, and these were DACA students, the students who are in the United States without proper paperwork and are nonetheless brought here by their families. And so this is a special classification of undocumented student in the United States. And so you saw my writing on that. And the reason I haven't written on matters related to some of the things going on at this campus as well as other campuses, messages related to hate, messages related to inappropriate speech, and a range of other things, is that we're still trying to determine exactly what is going on. And so let me say that there's a couple of factors. One, we have tens of thousands of students in one of the most diverse student bodies that operates at any university on the planet. Things are working fine. Things are moving forward. Students are going to class. Things are happening. And there have been a few occasions of inappropriate speech communicated in one of several forms. One form was hate speech written into a restroom, which was witnessed by a number of people. It turns out that that particular message was identical word for word to the messages being used at dozens of other colleges and universities around the country, which led us to believe that there was some chance that this was the actions of someone outside of the university or someone inside the university somehow connected to actors outside the university. A second item recently was a message sent to the Arizona Republic from an alleged student taking a picture of anti-Semitic messaging appearing at different locations around the university's physical campus. The first question I had in looking at that message was, is the person that sent it actually a student? Not because the messages aren't offensive, they are, but exactly what is going on. And it turns out that that person was not a student, and is not a student, and hasn't been a student. And so from our perspective, again, we're still trying to figure out who's communicating what's going on, who are these people, who do these people represent, if they represent someone else, or what are their motives, what are they after, and what's going on, while at the same time being heavily engaged with student leaders, with various organizations of students, with student government, with our deans of students on all of our campuses. And so right now, we are going to communicate at some point about issues associated with fear, and issues associated with speech, and issues associated with a range of other things. But I just wanted you all to hear from me, and then I'll open it up for questions if that's all right. Okay. And so, is that better? Wave your hands. Okay, great. And so, having said all of that, the pizza will be paid for by the West Campus. And so, I just wanted to be clear that, as you might imagine, you know, we have 73,000 students here with us. We have thousands of visitors each and every day, thousands of visitors on campus. We have events, we have athletic events, we have entertainment events, we have musical events, we have conferences, gatherings, meetings. Everything that you can imagine is going on. We have a full-time police force of many dozens of sworn officers as well as police aides, and I can guarantee you that these activities are being looked at by every means and every resource that we have to determine what in fact is going on. What I can say is that from every indication that we have, hearing from individual students, groups of students, and talking to student leaders, our campus environment is healthy. Morale is high. And so within that context, we are dealing then with individuals who are feeling concerned, upset, overwhelmed, afraid, whatever their emotions happen to be, we're trying to engage with those emotions. And so I just wanted you to know that when you don't hear from us, it's not because we're sitting around wondering whether or not we should say something or not, or it's not because we don't share one's concerns. We like to be able to say things definitively. We like to be able to communicate definitively because we don't want to be communicating all of the time. And so I thought with that, I'll open it up for comments or questions from anybody on this matter or any other matter.
Let me go ahead and let me find out if there are any comments or questions from Polytechnic. Keith, we can't hear you. You're still not unmuted.
Now can you hear?
Now we can, yes.
Okay. We have no questions here, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Looks like the next one is West.
I think we're unmuted. I think we have maybe a couple questions, so who will
Okay.
speak first? Okay.
There have been rumors circulating that hate flyers and hate mail is being posted. What are the repercussions or consequences, or what can be done about this aside from saying, oh, well, it's free speech? how can we deal with this, or how can this be addressed?
Well, so first, we don't say, oh, well, to anything. That would be not a good idea in an institution as complex as ours. We try to look at everything and understand what's going on. There have been hate messages. There have been some flyers posted. There have been some messages in restrooms. And it's fair to note that, yes, we all have freedom of speech, but if you're in the university community as a faculty member, a staff person, or a student, your conduct is actually regulated. That is, you may say whatever you wish, but you may not say certain things in certain ways and still be a member of this community. And so it's not that you don't have a freedom to express your own ideas. You do. You have a freedom to express your own thinking. You do. But you do not have a privilege to use the public spaces that we have to attack through hate speech, which is there are hate crimes. There are all kinds of things that are out there that are disallowed by the law. In our particular case, what we do is we try to determine who is the author, what is the source of the information, and so that's the phase that we're in right now. And if we find that the author of these things are students, faculty, or staff, then they are accountable for what they write. Now, I don't know what the outcome of that accountability would be, but they are accountable for what they write or say. And we've been through this on more than one occasion in the past with individuals in the last few years. And there's an elaborate set of procedures and guidelines and review processes in which accountability is maintained. So there's not it's just free speech, we don't do anything. You can't run around the university and put up posters, we hate this group or this group or this group or this group, or using derogatory terminology and posting it all over the institution. It's not your house. It's not your dwelling. If you want to put it up on the wall of your house, be my guest. Then everyone knows who did it and why you did it and so forth. People they think of the institution as a public institution, which it is, but it's a public institution within a set of rules, guidelines, procedures, frameworks, and expectations.
So I think we have another question. Wes?
I was going to ask that, Wes. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Crow. This is Mary Burleson. I was asked by a couple of our non-tenure track faculty to inquire with you, if possible, how they should feel or if they should be concerned about potentially being harassed or even sued for bias, liberal bias. In the current environment, there's been apparently a lot of sword rattling or saber rattling in these venues that I'm not personally aware of, but I was asked to bring this up and see if you could clarify what ASU would do to protect non-tenure track faculty who are teaching things that are viewed with disfavor.
Well, that's a complicated question without knowing the specifics, but what I can say is that faculty members, regardless of their rank or type of faculty member, they, at this institution, can teach in their subjects that which they want to teach. And so we have protected and defended that right on many occasions against other forces outside the university who didn't like what that particular person was teaching, the words that they used for the description of their course, the description of the method of the teaching. I'm remembering a case that we had in the art school some years ago about some poster art that was used in a way that a number of people found offensive and so forth. And in every case, and in all cases, a faculty member who is advancing their scholarship, their work, their teaching, their learning environment, we're going to protect their right to be able to do that. I think I can just leave it at that. There's never been a case that we haven't done that, and we have been called upon more than once. You may not all have tracked all these things that have happened, but we have been called upon more than once. I do remember and recall a conversation that I had several years ago with a senior sitting elected state official who wanted us to remove someone from the institution because of something that they'd said. I said, I almost laughed. I laughed. I said, you want us to remove someone. You only have access to one person for removal. And that would be me. And you don't sit on my board, so good luck. And so I'm happy to listen to your concerns. I'm happy to listen to your constituents' concerns. I'm happy to be, made aware of things that people are concerned about, but we don't dismiss people because you're unhappy with what they said. And so we have, looking at Provost Searle, we have always taken each of these cases that have come to us. And so I would share with your faculty, and the provost and the deans can communicate this. There's not going to be people sued for what they're teaching. And if they are, then we're going to be the party with the faculty member protecting the interests of the university and the faculty member. So that's an attack on the university. It's not an attack on the individual. I say that with also, there could be an occasion where a person is way out of the bounds of their faculty role and they do something with an individual, or they say something in some way where they're attempting to use their faculty role as a protection, more of a private matter. Well, that would be something that we would have to look at. But in terms of teaching in the classroom, that's a university matter, and you'd be protected by the university.
Thank you very much. That's very reassuring, and I'll pass it along.
Okay. Turning to the downtown campus.
No questions from the downtown campus.
Thank you. Tempe campus.
Hi, I'm Lee Bebo, and wow, that microphone is loud. President Crow, thank you for your comments the other day about the DACA students. I truly appreciate it. I know I have several students who are frankly uncertain and terrified in these times. I have two questions that are related to process with regard to all of this. The first one is, a week and a half ago, when the anti-Semitic, white supremacist flyers were put up on campus, some colleagues reached out to me and told me that they had seen the flyers. They reached out to the police, and the police said, well, it's free speech, we can't do anything. I'm assuming at that point the police reached out to the administration, or there was a miscommunication between the officer and the faculty who had seen the flyers.
So for reasons that you might find reassuring, we have not assigned the policing of public communication platforms to the police.
Yeah.
And so if you ask a standard, regular police officer, what about this? They're going to say, I don't know, it's free speech to me. And so that's not really their call.
Okay.
It is our call within the administration of the university, and that's very significantly managed by the Office of the Dean of Students, the Vice President for Student Affairs. And so we have elaborate policies that have been worked out throughout eons about chalking on the sidewalks and putting up of posters and flyers, and things that are hate speech are removed. All things that are not authorized to be posted are removed every 24 hours. I mean, it's just a part. Every message that's chalked somewhere is removed. Every message is removed. It's not their sidewalk. And so I know these things might sound a little bit strange, but we're definitely not giving control of that to the police department. We're going to give that to our very highly trained and skilled student affairs staff who manage student conduct, student life, the student experience, and so forth. And then on occasion, when the line is crossed and it is threatening speech or hate speech matched with threatening speech, then we ask the police to come in, and the police and the student affairs staff work very closely together. So that's probably what they heard, is the cops just said, listen, it's a free country.
Yeah, actually, the question that I have is, do you know if the police actually communicated the presence of those flyers to the administration, or did the administration find out through other means? Because obviously we don't want the police to crack down on free speech,
right,
but an open line of communication seems pretty viable.
We have a very successful environment here between the University Police Department and the University Student Affairs staff, and so they're communicating with each other back and forth all the time. So we don't see any issues there. We have had conduct issues with individual police officers, and those police officers don't work here anymore.
Excellent. And then the follow-up question, you made it clear that this was not necessarily a student who put things up or who communicated to the state press, and you kind of divided on
To the
campus.
Arizona Republic.
Oh, sorry, Arizona Republic. You divided the community on campus versus the community off campus. What are the consequences for people from off campus coming onto campus engaging in hate speech? Are there ways of banning them from campus, and then if they return, charging them with trespassing, or what are the consequences
The
available?
answer is unequivocally yes. We have, and we have exercised that right on numerous occasions, banning people from campus, banning them from entry on campus, charging them with trespassing. They have been arrested for trespassing. And so we have a number of statutes and rules and procedures which allow us to, again, it's public space, yes, but it's managed public space. It's like, well, this is a public library. You can't just, you can't take off the books off the shelf, just pile them up somewhere and say, well, I'm going to do that because it's a public library, so you can't do certain things. And so it's the same here.
Hi, Bob McPhee, Human Communication. There have been indications in the mass media that since the recent presidential election, hate speech in general nationwide may have increased. And I wondered, have you noticed anything like that on campus? Is there a jump or a difference in kind of speech like that?
I don't know that I could say that there is a jump. There certainly have been 2 or 3 incidents. We have had 2 or 3 incidents in the past. We've had 5 or 6 incidents in the past. What we have now are larger numbers of people communicating to us that they are fearful, that they are afraid, that they don't feel as comfortable maybe as they did. And so those are not large numbers of people, but they're more than we've experienced in the past. And so I don't know if they're being influenced by their connection to the national media and things that they're reading nationally. This is one of the things that we live in now in our country of 320 million people. There's a bus accident somewhere hundreds of miles away and people are injured or killed, and we all feel that because it's being portrayed to us as if it was just down the street. And so we feel this cumulative thing. And so I don't know what the source of this additional anxiety is, although whatever it is, we're trying to be responsive to it. So Mark, do you think there's been more incidents now than at some other time? This is Provost Searle.
I think that we've had this 2 or 3 events immediately following, but you know, in the long-term time frame, it really doesn't reflect any big change. And I'm hoping that it was an acute kind of thing, and that's moved on. But we're prepared to respond as necessary moving forward.
One of the very encouraging things I think that faculty should be aware of is the stepping up of the student leadership to all of these things on a national basis, solidarity and coalescence among different groups. So we have a number of groups, different minority student groups, international student groups, sexual orientation groups, a range of groups around the institution who have all come together on their own and have put out their own statements and put out their own reactions to some of these things. And that's very powerful when you see leaders stepping up like that in our student body. And so we have seen that, and that's been positive. Elected leaders, appointed leaders, communities of leaders, religious leaders from a broad spectrum of religious groups all stepping up. And so that's been very positive. And then I'll just add, just for all of you, that you know, the university is at the moment running well. Things are, you know, progressing. Students are moving forward. You know, there are lots of factors and lots of things going on, but life seems to be positively progressing. Freudian slip.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. All right.
Our next speaker, Phil Regier, is here to answer questions that the Senate received regarding ASU Online.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to address you, and I'm also appreciative the fact that I can see many of my longtime colleagues here. I've been here a long time, and notice I said longtime colleagues and not old colleagues. Let me talk a little bit about, and what I want to do is address some questions and issues, particularly related to the course design and course build process, use of evaluative data, faculty compensation for teaching, and other questions that have been raised by either faculty or members of the Senate. And let me start off with some background first off. I am what we refer to as Ed Plus, the CEO of Ed Plus and University Dean for Education Initiatives. Ed Plus is the group that resides at SkySong, responsible for advancing and accelerating everything that we do with online teaching and learning at the university. Over the past 7 years, we've grown from a very few online programs to over 130 programs. And as a result, we are bringing on about anywhere from 15 to 30 new programs a year. Last year, we brought on 38 new programs. When I refer to a program, I'm talking about a degree program or a graduate certificate. So either an undergraduate degree, a graduate degree, or a graduate certificate. We employ, in the process of bringing programs online, about 18 instructional designers who are charged with working very carefully with faculty on the onboarding of courses. And across the university, and this is important to remember, there are another 20 or 30 people with the title of instructional designers that reside within the academic units themselves. I also want to clarify the distinction between online courses, which are built for online programs, and sometimes they're referred to as O courses, and I courses, which are online courses delivered to the campus campus immersion students. Last year, for example, in the fall, there were 863 I courses listed. There were 863 O courses, 865 I courses. So almost exactly the same number of I courses and O courses. Only about 540 of those were cross-listed. So there are at least 350 I courses delivered in any given session that are not delivered by or produced by ASU Online or Ed Plus quality assurance and instructional designers. Let me begin by talking a bit about the course build process itself. As I said, we make a decision to bring a program online when a unit approaches us and we've talked with the provost and had that program approved for online delivery. Almost always our decision is made around a couple of key features. First off, we have to think that there is a sufficient market to justify the expense and the fixed costs that we're going to go through in developing the online coursework. And the other thing that we have to be concerned about and careful with is we want to be sure that it enhances our reputational ability. So there are some courses or some programs that may not have a big market, but we know that we need to be a leader in that particular area. So it might be biomimicry or sustainability or other programs. For those, we do almost entirely for reputational purposes. Now, as we agree to onboard a program, we work very carefully with the unit head and the academic head. Obviously, the approval process includes the dean and the provost, but we work very carefully with the unit head so that, and at this point, after building 130 programs, we have a very clear and detailed onboarding process. It begins with the unit head. Our instructional designers will then sit down with the key faculty as we schedule out and begin to build the individual courses. Now, I want to say that the team of instructional designers and videographers and instructional technologists that we employ inside Ed Plus are focused on creating a well-designed course. That doesn't mean it's a good course because they are not content experts. What they are is design experts, and what the faculty are the content experts And we found over many, many years of experience that a collaborative approach, working very carefully with faculty in the design and development of courses, results in the best possible outcome. Our designers make recommendations around design and development and technology for faculty who have often never taught an online course. And additionally, they make recommendations around common course elements that should be in a course that ensure consistency in course structure and look and feel. We don't want the student, when they get into a new course, to have to worry about, for example, where the syllabus is or where the discussion board is. And so all of those things, we do try and provide some commonality. But at any given time, you have to understand that the faculty has control of the course. And if certain elements, the faculty, while we can make recommendations, if the faculty doesn't want that element in the course, that element won't go into the course. There are only a few exceptions to that. You know, for example, there are certain ASU resource and policy information that we like to have in every course. Those are things like accessibility resources, technical support, ASU student support policies, and then the color and the design of the course has been a standard ASU template for as long as we've been delivering online courses. We don't rely on a policy manual, and while we worked on 900 courses last year, and we worked with 900 faculty members roughly in building those courses, we approach every project as though it's somewhat unique, and that is in keeping with the academic culture at the university. We are not a for-profit institution. We are an institution with faculty and knowledge creation and knowledge dissemination at our core. And we work with faculty in that sense and with regard to their understanding and their needs and wants. We begin with conversations around the needs and the wants of the faculty, and we listen very carefully with them. From the time we sit down with the faculty until the course is actually delivered for the first time is generally about 6 months. So obviously that's not 40 hours a week of working on the course, but it does take a long period of time to sync up so that everybody's on the same page and the faculty gets the course they want, and we have a course that's consistent with other courses that are delivered in ASU Online. The minimum hiring requirements, by the way, for instructional designers is a master's degree, generally in instructional technology or educational technology, and at least 3 years of experience. Many of the instructional designers in ASU Online also have PhDs in educational technology or related areas. There were questions around Quality Matters. Quality Matters is a course design rubric that we use. It was developed initially at Carnegie Mellon out of a FIPSE grant. It is the most widely used course design rubric for online coursework in this country. And what we work with, while we have what's referred to as the Quality Matters template, we generally try and get many of the elements of that template into the course. And by the way, these are not esoteric items. It's like, do you have clearly stated learning objectives in the course? That gets you a certain number of points. And so we try and work with the faculty to make sure important elements of the Quality Matters rubric are embedded in the course. We love Quality Matters. We think it's a very good research-based quality improvement mechanism, and we work very carefully with faculty to make sure they're comfortable with it and they understand why we're trying to deliver it and or why we're trying to conform to that particular rubric. In terms of ongoing course improvement, we don't improve courses on a schedule. In other words, it's not that every 3 years or every 2 years there's a mandatory refresh of the course, because the fact is some courses have to be refreshed every time they're taught. Other courses don't have to be refreshed for 2 or 3 years. And so we leave it up to the individual faculty member to design or to work with us to refresh the course. The faculty members generally know exactly which instructional designer they should be working with, and so They should feel free at any time to call up an instructional designer either within Ed Plus or within their academic unit if they feel that a course needs to be refreshed. We do have what we refer to as a 360 review at the end of every semester or at the end of every term, where we look over all the courses, and we look at a lot of different metrics, everything from pass rates to how often the students were engaged in the course, how long the faculty was in the course evaluation data, et cetera. And we'll make recommendations to instructional designers to review a small set of courses. The instructional designers will review those courses and then generally get back to the faculty members and the academic leads of the units and make recommendations around improvements for those courses. Only a couple of other things. In terms of course evaluation data, there is a faculty course evaluation which is performed at the unit level, and the information is contained at the unit level. For all online courses, there is also a very small set of questions, I think it's 5 questions, that relates to the design of the course, not to the evaluation of the faculty member. And we do look at that in doing the 360 review at the end of each term. Finally, there were questions around faculty compensation for teaching in ASU online courses. And again, that's a unit level decision in the same way that teaching a face-to-face, the compensation for teaching face-to-face courses is done at the unit level. ASU Online doesn't control it. The Provost Office doesn't control it. It's a unit level decision, and some units have followed a master course model where they'll have a single, it may be a high-profile expert in the area design the course, and then they have a set of instructional or faculty, clinical faculty or lecturers underneath delivering to groups of students, and that's fine. And that requires a different compensation model than if you have tenured faculty teaching groups of 35 students at a time in an online course. And we leave it up to the academic units. There are obviously incentives to deliver in certain ways, but it's up to the academic unit head how they actually want to kind of put faculty in the courses and compensate the faculty. That was kind of what I was going to say. Would you like to open it up for questions, or what would you like to do next? Okay, then go ahead. And
you covered so many of the points that we gave you the questions ahead of time that came from the UAC and some of the senators. I know, isn't that great? I'm going to go to the FAR units first and then give Tempe people time to come to the microphone. And the first one that I see in the corner is Polytechnic. Do you have any questions for Bill Regier?
No questions here, thank you.
Downtown.
We do have one question.
This is Kathy Lally, and I have a question on you talked about making the decision to take a course through the online process. I'm wondering, how do you determine if a sufficient market is there to justify developing a course for online? Is there a metrics that we can look at or know about?
I have to tell you, that's a difficult question. It's a difficult question to respond to. There are some courses that I guarantee you I don't have to do any analysis on. So, for example, if any engineering program wants to do anything, we'll do it. There is a market for it. It could be, I don't know, engineering, biomedical engineering, civil engineering, electrical engineering. It could be engineering kittens, and there would be a market for it, okay? Business is very much the same way. But then things get tricky. Those are also, business programs particularly, are very competitive. In other words, there are a lot of online places where I can get a degree in management. And so when we decide to do a business program, it has to be with the awareness that it's going to be more competitive, but the market is bigger. Now, one of the best examples I can give of a program that nobody thought, let me say the experts would not tell me there would be a market, but it's performed incredibly well, is the program in history here in liberal arts and sciences. History came to us. They wanted to do an online history program. Now, that's a place where there aren't a lot of very good online history programs, and I think that program now has between 350 and 500 students in it. And so, to some extent, it is, let me just say it's a multivariate analysis. We look at the number of competing programs, we look at the competitiveness, we look at how much we can charge, and, and we make some mistakes. We did a program in biomedical repository management, and that was a dud, and darned if we don't have a lot of students in programs like history and religious studies and art history. So it's not a single set of metrics we look at, it's a multivariate, multidimensional question that we try to answer. Sorry, long response.
No, that's okay. Downtown, do you have any other questions?
Just one more question. This is Donna Cataldo. I'm just wondering, how do we determine enrollment size, from a minimum to a maximum enrollment? Is that something determined by ASU Online or at the college level?
No, what we do is the only, kind of stipulation we put on academic units is that they can establish the academic standards for admission. And we always like the academic standards for admission to be at least as high as what they are for face-to-face programs. Okay? So in 98% of the cases, the requirements for admission are the same as they are for face-to-face programs. But then once those standards are set, we don't want units to cap programs. So they can't say, we'll take the first 120 students and then we're going to cap. The idea here is actually to grow and to develop some scale, because online is about scale delivery and developing efficiencies on that framework. But we don't put either enrollments on caps on class size enrollments, and we ask that units not cap the size of their program.
Thank you.
West?
Yes, we have a question.
Hi, Phil. John Dalmas, School of Accountancy. Just want to provide a bit. How are you?
I'm an accounting professor, so this is like speaking to like here. So go ahead, John.
Thank you. First, just a quick bit of feedback and then a question. This session, I adopted the RP Now platform for doing proctored exams, and find the system works really well. I particularly like that it allows me to use a publisher's platform to deliver exams instead of having to deliver only from Blackboard. So that's really appealing, especially I find in a class like accounting, not having to duplicate that capability. And I'm finding that's creating a lot of parity between that class and the ground-based classes in terms of performance, and I think it's really doing the job that we would hope and what I hoped it would do. I was just wondering, do you see that RP Now is going to continue forward as far as a program or a platform that we'll have to utilize, or what you see being the proctored environment, proctored exam environment going forward?
So I'm going to be a little embarrassed here. We use about 150 to 170 different technology tools for different courses, and I know the RP Now is probably a proctored test-taking delivery method, but I'm not familiar with it. I'm familiar with a lot of the others. But the fact is the proctored test environment will become more important going forward. One of the things that we're incredibly sensitive to in ASU Online is this notion of academic integrity and maintaining academic integrity. And our instructional designers work very hard, and we have some pedagogical solutions and some technology solutions and community building solutions to try and maintain academic integrity at the highest level. And I know that in many courses, online monitoring of proctored tests is very important, and it's simply going to become more so, John. So that's kind of the best response I can give.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
Anyone else at West?
No, doesn't seem like it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we have someone here in Tempe, if you'd give your name, please.
Sure. I'm Dave Wells. I'm on the Senate Personnel Committee, and I'm in the Faculty of Leadership and Interdisciplinary Studies, which includes the Organizational Leadership degree. You managed, Phil, to avoid one of the questions that we had, which was about the financial model. Mm-hmm. The standard credit rate is $500. $417 of that goes to ASU Online. $83 of that goes to the unit. That's $1 out of 6. And that's...
So Mark is standing up. I would just like to say I wish we got that cut. But go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
I didn't think it was fair for Phil to answer this because it's not Phil's responsibility. We collect tuition from online students just as we collect tuition from any student. There is no differentiation in the receipt of the money. The university receives all the tuition money. Ed Plus, like your unit and every other unit, gets a budget from us. So if you ask Phil, does he have enough money, the first answer will be no. Because he's going to be like everybody else who could do more if he had more. He does not get the residual from tuition. Nobody gets, the university gets all the tuition. We then have chosen from the very beginning, when Provost Capaldi was in the leadership position, that we would give funding to each unit at roughly $250 per person per 3 credit hours. And that continues to this day. And that's so that there's money coming back to the unit to help pay for the teaching and pay for the other things associated with mounting an online degree, because there had to be some way to finance that within the units and for them to have some incentive. And some units have done extraordinarily well. There's at least one that I know of that if you look on any given day, there's probably $1 million in their bank account because they've done so well with the volume of teaching of students. So that's how the money actually works. What we are doing right now is undertaking a review of the money that goes back to the units to see whether we have the right model or whether we should be looking at a different model to help units be successful in that delivery.
Well, then my follow-up is that that model is not working because, again, it's still $1 out of every $6 that is being paid, and tuition is going back to the unit that's actually delivering the instruction. That means the faculty are not, in my mind, anywhere near on the priority list where they should be, and the math is becoming difficult in units like mine, unless we're going to increase class size, because, you know, fortunately, I very much appreciate the fact that lecturers and instructors have seen an increase in their starting pay. I think that's a wonderful thing the university has done. But that doesn't fit with the model, which means $250 per student, because now the costs at the unit level have gone up. So I don't see how this model recognizes the value of faculty the way it's currently structured.
Well, I think that you're working from a premise that I don't agree with, which is that somehow online is designed to compensate faculty. To Phil's comment about teaching load, faculty can be teaching online courses as part of their regular load. There is no extra compensation. That's part of their assignment. There are some faculty who teach at above load for which they get extra compensation because the unit needs to do it that way, and that's fine. But those models of compensation aren't driven by the amount of money that comes back to the unit, any more than salaries are driven by the total amount of tuition we generate from students who come on campus. It is simply tuition money. And then the university is trying to figure out best ways to fund that. And so we don't disagree that the model needs to be relooked. That's why we are relooking it. But it works for some units, it works less for other units, and we're trying to figure out what's the best way to figure out that pathway to give units the kind of resources they ultimately need to deliver the program, because that's obviously that's what we're here about. I don't think it has anything to do with the status of the faculty in this equation.
Let me just clarify. In my unit, you know, we're growing by leaps and bounds, and so a number of the faculty who are hired are teaching exclusively online, and the revenue from online is what our unit depends on to be able to pay those faculty. So for me, that they're quite connected. It's not a disconnect, and that's why we're concerned.
Because I do know the budget of every unit, and I know that the unit has money to pay the faculty, that there's enough money coming in to pay those costs. What you're talking about, though, is a broader picture. And I think that we agree on, that there needs to be some reexamination of the model. But that we have had that underway now for several months.
All right, well, I look forward to hearing more from that.
Thanks.
Hi, Phil. It's Margie Baldwin from Economics, and I'm also directing public health programs for the College Health Solutions. And a week ago, I got an email from our marketing person at CHS saying that College Choice had ranked ASU as having the best online bachelor's program in public health. And I wrote back and I said, that's odd because we don't have an online bachelor's program in public health. Can you just tell me what the College Choice rankings are, and are we monitoring this?
Yeah,
that's
we monitor it very closely because units are often notified by somebody they've never heard or a website they've never heard of that their online program has been highly ranked. While we all like high rankings, most of these things are not only they're bad, and the reason they're bad is this. They are delivered by what are called aggregator sites. And so College Choice, for example, actually doesn't give two hoots about the program. What they care about are driving people to the site and getting people to advertise on the site. So if you go to a place like College Choice, the probable advertisers you will see are third-rate, well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it, are for-profit schools, Strayer, Bridgepoint, University of Phoenix, maybe Grand Canyon might be in there. And what they do is they get people to come to those sites, click, and then that site gets paid. And so they don't care about the rankings. And we often, you know, I know that we've had College of Public Programs has been ranked, nursing has been ranked, et cetera. The only one we really look at carefully is U.S. News and World Report, undergraduate online ranking.
This was being tweeted around the colleges, hey, we have this great program, which we don't have, so maybe people should know.
Yeah. We try and work carefully, not just with the Marketing Hub, but we also have our own marketing group. And any time somebody sends us something saying, hey, look, we got ranked, what should we do with it? We'll make an evaluation. There are some legitimate ones, and most of the time we say, oh, please run from that as quickly as you can. Don't post it. Don't put it up on your homepage. It's not actually a point of pride. It will cause people, in the end, to despair.
Thanks.
Okay, sure. Nice to see you, Marjorie.
I'm Helene Uspa from the School of International Letters and Cultures, and one of my colleagues asked me to approach the issue of adapting the schedules so that it fits different skills. So for instance, learning a language cannot be done in 7.5-week chunks. You really do need to do it over the C session. So, excuse me, would it be possible for ASU Online to allow certain programs to offer courses during the C session rather than the A and the B session?
What we tend, and so thanks very much for the question. That's one that we get a lot, and we get it almost independent of the content area. You know, accountants believe that it takes 15 weeks to teach intermediate accounting, and linguists believe it takes X number of weeks. You know, there is actually quite a bit of educational research on this. For virtually every subject that's been looked at, from math to languages to et cetera, compressed format classes tend to outperform. They tend to outperform in two ways. The learning outcomes tend to be better for that particular course, and then students retain better in follow-on courses. And so that's why we went to compressed format classes when we first started ASU Online. However, we have made occasional exceptions to that. So, for example, we're going to do a capstone course in electrical engineering starting next term, where we are allowing a C-section. And the reason we're allowing the C-section is it is physically impossible for the students to get all the materials for the capstone project and complete the project in 7.5 weeks. We are always willing to work with units and consider potentially different ways of delivering. So you might do a 1.5-hour A session, a 1.5-hour B session, which basically constitutes a C session. So we're always willing to talk with you, and And if you'd want to talk with us about it further, we'd be glad to discuss it. We
Okay,
have
thank-
made some exceptions.
Thank you.
You bet. Yeah, what can I say? Well, you didn't want to ask President Crow the hard questions.
So Hugh Barnaby, I'm also on the Personnel Committee, and I'm also in electrical engineering, and I've taught these classes, so I have some very specific comments for you, good and bad, okay? And I'd like you to just take some feedback here. The good part is the commonality. The Blackboard interface is the right way to go, and by and large, that is working out pretty well. It's fairly efficient for us to put it together. We could have more instruction on it, but by and large, I would say that that's a good piece. Now for the bad. We need
That was
more.
only one good thing.
Well, there's 3 bad ones.
You have like 6 bad things.
We need more support.
Yeah.
One of the big issues that you have here is the student-teacher interface problem. The students, you know, their only way of communicating with us is through Adobe Connect maybe, or Skype, or email.
discussion board.
We already get a lot of email. You know, this is a research university. I do a lot of research, and I get a lot of email, and I have to have separate accounts for the students to communicate. So a better way to interface with the students would be good. Also, this thing about CAP, and this is kind of related to this support. To think that you can just add more and more students to no end because it's online is ridiculous, okay? We get 400 students, you're going to get 400 emails. We can't respond to all those emails. The students expect us to do it, but we can't. So you've got to put a cap on these. It's just crazy to think that we can't.
Okay, so let me say there are 2 different things going on. First off is capping the size of the program and the number of students that come into the program. And electrical engineering is a program where we've actually raised the entry requirements in order to begin reducing the number of students in the program. But then the other thing is the number of students in the course. And that's what I was saying. I was saying that that's basically a unit-level decision, not an ASU online decision, as to the most efficient way to deliver the course. I have no doubt, by the way, I have incredible respect for what you guys and Steve Phillips in engineering have done, and you have grown incredibly quickly. So I have no doubt that there are things
Too
that
quickly. The fact is we've done it too quickly. And maybe this is something that needs to be dealt with at the unit level, but really too fast.
Yeah, and so I'm
We
just
can't handle
saying
it.
that we will learn a lot, and we have learned a lot, and I hope many of these things are addressed in the future.
Yeah, so, and I do think that although my interface with your instructional designer has been okay, it could be better. Okay, so we need to step up that. I mean, I think a little bit too much is being placed on the faculty who, let's face it, all of us started off with, you know, boards and sitting in front of boards. We're used to that. So adjusting to an online environment, just expecting us to somehow be able to do it is a little bit far-fetched. We need more time to learn how to do this.
And
we need better instructional support.
I don't, and so, you know, I'd be glad if anybody wants to send me emails, I'd be glad to discuss individual circumstances with you. One thing I was going to say is, though, that instructional designers and that instructional design team inside EdPlus is responsible not just for building the courses, but also assisting in training faculty. And so last year, for example, we had workshops and webinars, and over 1,700 faculty got trained. We have a 2-week, what we used to call a boot camp, but we now refer to it as like faculty teaching online excellence camp, because faculty didn't like to be in a boot camp. But over 800 faculty have gone through that boot camp, and it is designed to make faculty understand the online environment and what it's like to be an online student. And so we have a variety of resources, and you know, whether an individual is trained in the right way or not, I don't know, but I will say that we have resources available to assist in training however you might need it.
The resources could be improved on that, I would say.
Yeah, like Mark said, if he'd give me more budget.
Well, and I'm fine with that.
No.
Like, you know, let's get him more money because in general I think it's a good thing to have. But you know, electrical engineering is by and large supportive, and I can only speak for electrical, but we are by and large supportive of online, but it does need more support, especially on the communication interface.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last point, negative point I want to make, well, just an observation in my own experience, is the hybrid concept or the I-course. I really think we want to think hard about this. The on-campus student taking an online content course, at least in electrical engineering, I don't think is the best way to go right now, because the online content is, the delivery mechanism is not as good as the on-campus. This is my experience as a teacher.
I'd say two things. I'd say the online student is fundamentally different from the on-campus student. One's 31 years old on average, the other one's 21 years old. The other observation I'd make, though, is that the decision to deliver or use an I-course is, again, a unit-level decision. I have nothing to do with it. Mark has nothing to do with it. That is a unit-level decision. And I know that we've observed the same things with on-campus immersion students, to use President Crow's terminology. And there have been restrictions placed on the number of I-courses that at least freshmen and sophomores can take as a result of observing what you have observed as well.
Okay, and then one suggestion, and this is actually something I'm going to do for my class this semester, which is the use of a recitation section in parallel with the online content. It will, and that is that's almost required. I mean, you know, I don't do attendance, so it, you know, people can come if not. But to have a scheduled time for recitation when the students come in, we do for engineering, we do problem solving. There's more of this kind of interface, and being able to incorporate it so that online students can also have access to that recitation content is one of the things we're going to be trying out this semester, and I really hope that it helps improve the quality.
Yeah, and one thing I'd say about that recitation section, because our online students are literally spread all around the world, things that have been very effective is recording that recitation
we'd record
and then
that.
putting
That's
it
right.
online
That's what we'll be
for
doing.
the students who couldn't attend.
Okay.
Thanks. All good comments. Thanks.
Hello, Juan Pablo Gil from the School of International Letters and Cultures. Just one comment. When I hear that there's no caps, and setting a cap goes totally against the philosophy of online teaching, I get a bit worried because we teach languages. It's not the same teaching 10 students or teaching 100 students when you teach a language.
Can I just be clear? I'm talking about course, you know, there can be individual course section caps, right? And so if you in Silk believe that the right size for an online course is 30 or 35 or 40 students, you can establish that as a cap, whatever it is, okay? What I'm saying is we try not to cap the number of students who may want a BS in Spanish.
Yeah, understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
You have time?
Yo, I have.
Okay.
I have nothing but time. Yeah.
Bob McPhee, Human Communication.
Yes.
I'm curious about the extent to which units are given, well, support and, let's say, training in dealing with online decision-making. Because, you know, you're saying in several cases, this is a unit decision, but the unit administrators may be completely ignorant of how to make those decisions.
And, look, I think that's a really good point. And at different times over the last 7 years, we have either worked with individual unit heads to assist them in kind of understanding the business of online. I mean, kind of like how to divide up the money and fixed costs and how the different ways that you can deliver online. And we've also had some information sessions that were open to anybody who can become any academic unit head. I will say that again, any unit head that wants to discuss this with us is, I make myself available, and my financial officer and business officers would make themselves available to assist, because it is different than what they may be used to in a face-to-face environment. So I completely concur with you.
Is there any monitoring of that? Because as you can surely imagine, there are unit heads, perhaps, who think they can do this and don't.
Yeah. Deans know that ASU Online or resources within the college are available to assist unit heads who may request it or need it. But Ed Plus itself does not monitor it, nor is that part of the onboarding process. We don't sit down and kind of work through the business decisions around delivery of online with the academic unit heads. Good.
Stefania Traconia from the School of Mathematics. I wanted to bring up an issue actually which was already brought up last spring, and that's the lack of official roster photos for ASU Online students.
Official roster?
Photos.
Oh,
there are no pictures. There are no pictures of the students. So we were told that it's impossible to ask them for an ASU ID card, which I understand, but could we at least ask the students to upload a picture of themselves, maybe together with a passport or a state-issued ID card and an affidavit stating this is indeed a picture of myself? I mean, but you mentioned ASU Online is sensitive to academic integrity. This would actually help a lot with RPNow and all those proctoring systems.
Yes, so again, thanks for that question. That's one that arises every once in a while, like every 6 or 8 months. There are some difficulties in having remote students be issued ASU IDs.
Yeah, but we're not asking for that.
Exactly. What you're saying is, can the instructor require or ask students?
No, not the instructor, you.
Oh, me?
That's what I'm asking.
Can I require it?
As soon as a student enrolls in ASU Online, can we require that student to upload a picture of himself or herself?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to the question.
I mean, we are doing it with on-campus students, aren't we?
Yeah, but in order to get an ASU ID, people have to provide an official means of identification, and it has to get sent through the mail. And we can't require official forms of identification to be sent internationally.
Now, why does it have to be sent by mail?
Because it has to come into ASU, because that's the process that we've set that ASU has for delivering ASU IDs to out-of-state students. Mark, do you want to chime in here? It's a tricky issue. I'm sorry.
We've been having this dialogue for a while, so I appreciate the concern being expressed. I don't think we found a solution yet. I think that's the honest answer in the sense of this. I do know that when students are tested, they are required to put up photo ID. What you're saying is we don't necessarily know that that's the student. I get that. So I think it's something that Phil and I will have to go away with and start to think about, is there some mechanism through which we can get to the end game that you're describing?
Yeah.
I just don't know the answer.
That's correct. The right answer is we don't know.
Okay.
So that's good.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mark.
This revisits a bit of an old theme. I'm Dave Kaufman from Biomedical Informatics. I think this is a very interesting experiment. I mean, I think we're still in a relatively early transition phase. You know, we have had years and years of teaching face-to-face, and I think courses will be very different. So we're in the process of repurposing face-to-face courses and creating them as online courses, and they have a quality and a history to them. For example, a survey course that I taught was 15 weeks, and it's a different subject every week. And repurposing it for an online class has the particular challenge of compressing 15 topics. So sometimes in a given week, you're doing 3 units. And so one of the overall challenges that we confront is that in the content area, so the instructional designers have had very positive experiences. They're very helpful, but they're not content experts. And they really can't help guide us with some of the choices we need to make. Nor should they be expected to. So that's really one of the very big challenges, is repurposing courses.
Right.
Over time, they'll become dedicated online classes, and that will no longer be an issue.
Yes.
But that's a significant challenge that we're confronting at the moment.
Yeah, I think, one thing I always say is that face-to-face teaching, in my opinion, it kind of peaked in the late 80s, right before the invention of PowerPoint. But we had a couple of 100 years of figuring out how to do that. We're at the very early stages of online, and I think that what you will see over the next decade or two will be, and what we did, by the way, initially was we ported a face-to-face course into an online environment, and now we're confronting exactly the things you said, which is, wait a minute, online is a different environment, and it requires a different kind of course build process. And that's where, and you're right, the instructional designers are not content experts. They can often not assist you in making some decisions that you'll have to make as a faculty member, but we will help you to redo the course until you think that you've got it right. I can tell you that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate your taking the time for this and for answering all of our questions.
Thank you
so
very much.
Thank you very much. Our third informational report is Helene Osipov, who is going to talk to you about updates on the Open Access Task Force.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to be, my favorite word, breviloquent on this. So, the Open Access Task Force at ASU has met several times. We were charged at the beginning of the semester to come up to work with the libraries, to work with OCAD, to work with various other stakeholders, and to come up with some kind of open access policy. We're on our way. We're on our way. We're getting there. We're getting there. So this is just going to be a brief report on what it is that we've done so far. So basically, why are we doing this? Why do we even need an open access policy? We need an open access policy because it's a statement of principle. It says that we believe in disseminating our knowledge as much as possible and not keeping it only to those people who could afford, for instance, subscriptions to the various journals. There are a lot of people who cannot have access to a lot of our work. So this is to disseminate our knowledge because this is what we do, okay? It's a statement of principle, and it fits into ASU's mission of serving the community. So we've been working on making a clear statement through the open access policy. The stakeholders are many. The Arizona Board of Regents has something to say about it. OCAD has something to say about it. The libraries obviously are involved with this. ASU faculty are probably the major stakeholders, and then there are also various funding agencies. Many people, especially in the sciences, find that as part of their grants, they have to publish their work or to make their work available in an open access repository. And there's different kinds of repositories. There's things like academia, there's I'm sorry, I can't remember, med something or other. There's various repository, PubMed. So why do it to an ASU repository? Mostly because of, it's an archive kind of thing. It also gathers all of our work together so that we could see what is being done at ASU. And we can also be sure that the repository isn't going anywhere. You know, Academia.com may go away. It may be bought off. It might be bought by someone. We don't know what's going to happen to some of these other repositories. The ASU repository we can have some faith in. So these are all the various stakeholders that we have. In the policy that we've talked about so far, we're only going to talk about journal articles. It's been brought up that people do other things in terms of scholarly work, that there's people do things with film, people do things with video, with art, there's all kinds of different media now that you can use for your own scholarly work. We're only going to concentrate on journal articles. Syllabi, course notes, Blackboard shells, etc., all of these things are already owned by the university. You don't have the copyright to your class notes. Surprise, surprise, but that's true. Okay. You don't have the copyright. They belong to the copyright belongs to the university through ABOR. So these are not affected by the open access policy. Only journal articles are going to be affected by the open access policy. Okay. We've had several meetings of the committee as a whole, and Kathleen Puckett and I have also met several times with the Office of General Counsel, with Stephanie Lindquist from the Provost's office. We've also met with Annalie Perry of the libraries, and we've all become very good friends from all the time we've spent together discussing these issues. What we're looking at so far is that for our policy, that faculty at ASU grant to the university a license to make their work freely available. This does not mean that we grant the copyright to the university. We grant a license. This is the same way as, for instance, when the university allows a vendor to put Sparky on a T-shirt. Okay, they license the Sparky. They don't license the copy. They don't give the copyright to the T-shirt maker. So it's the same kind of thing. We grant a license to the university and say, yes, you can reproduce our work. Essentially means, yes, you can put your work on your website. You can put your work in the repository. Okay, and the license is affirmed when you sign your yearly notice of appointment. Is usually the you're subject to this, and that regulation. This would just be one of the other regulations that you sign off on. Okay? The advantage to a lot of faculty, especially those that work in the sciences, is that when you have your grant and you're supposed to put it in open access, technically it's the university that makes the agreement with the granting agency, and then you have to, for every single article that you write, the faculty member then has to grant a license to ASU for each article. This means that it'll be done once, that's it, you don't have to worry about it. Okay, we grant the license, it's a pre-existing agreement, you don't have to worry about anything with the publishers or anything like that, it's just done. And again, copyright is not transferred to ASU, the author or the journal, whichever, because these things are always different, retains the copyright. And what we would ask is that a final, clean, accepted copy, so the last copy that you send off to the journal, okay, after they've done everything, made all the changes, that kind of thing, the final clean copy, that gets put into the ASU repository, okay? The journal article, the one that's formatted, the PDF that shows on the journal site, that's the document of record, and that's what should be cited, okay, in other people's research. This is just placed in the repository, if you will, as an archival thing, or for people to look at, for instance, to make sure that they really do want to get the journal if they need to do that, or buy the article sometimes, okay? Waivers of the license may be requested, so sometimes you might have a publisher that says, no, you cannot have this license, at which point you would just ask for a waiver and it will be granted. Works in the repository may also be embargoed, which means that sometimes the publisher will say, okay, you could do the open access, but you can't show anything for 6 months, for a year. It just has to go dark for that amount of time. Okay, yeah, that's fine, okay? And working with other university partners, the libraries and OCAD, various other stakeholders will work to make this process as simple as possible for the faculty. Okay, the idea is not that this is yet one more thing for you to do. Okay, it's to try to make things as easy as possible. So the task force isn't going to come up with the process. That's up to the libraries to come up with the process. Okay? Basically, that's it for what we've got so far. If you have any questions, I might not be able to answer them, but if you have any comments that you want me to know about, that you want the committee to know about, if your faculty have any issues or anything, please let me know. So, let's see, downtown? Downtown, do you have any questions? Comments? Things you want to say?
No questions from downtown.
Okay, thank you. Polly?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And West?
It seems like we don't have any questions. I just want to make a comment.
Okay.
Thank you. You answered. I've been raising a lot of questions about this, and you finally gave a really nice and concrete question. Especially, I was concerned about journals that have embargoes, and so I'm really happy to see that that's in the policy, and it just kind of what you presented today makes a lot of sense to me, and I really want to thank you for the clarity.
Okay, you're welcome. I just want to make clear that this is not the policy, by the way. This is what we've got so far. Who knows what's going to be the final result of the policy, where, like I said, it's a work in progress, and we're still working with the Office of General Counsel, and we have to see what ABOR has to say about this, too, because whatever ABOR says is really the final word. So we have to make sure that we're not against them. But we'll keep that in mind about the embargoing. I don't think that particular part is going to go anywhere.
Understood. Well, thanks again.
Okay. No one in Tempe? Okay, great. I hope I was grandiloquent enough. Thank you all. And if you have any questions or anything, just send me an email.
Thank you, Helene. Her committee has worked so hard on that, and right before Thanksgiving, we spent, what, 2 hours going back and forth with General Counsel, and my brain hurts so badly. This is really a complex issue, and what we're doing is our homework ahead of time so that we have a policy that is defendable. Both for the faculty and for what we have to go through. Next on the agenda is the chair's report, and as you can see with the time frame, I've cut some of it. So let me go through what I think you really need to know about what has been happening so far. The Senator's Spotlight for November is Claudia Villegas Silva. Claudia is currently serving on the University Senate Committee on Committees. She has learned that the Senate is where academic and professional decisions are made and addressed, and that the Senate strives to create a more equitable institution. This month's dashboard will feature Claudia and her comments, but it also features a link to a survey asking your input on the research activities that can be featured at the upcoming ABOR breakfast to be hosted by ASU February 3rd. Please consider your work or the work of your colleagues and make some recommendations for projects to feature. This dashboard goes out to all the academic assembly, and we know who they are now, but you can also get it off the Senate website, and the link to the survey is there. At the last Senate meeting, we received comments in open forum regarding issues with ASU's travel application, and we invited you to submit questions or statements regarding those issues that you have encountered. Those questions have been sent to Michael Kingery, who will be on the program at the Senate meeting number 5 in January. He was scheduled for this time, but fortunately, because of our time, he wasn't able to come. So he will be coming in January. If you have further questions other than what was submitted, please let us know. In other Senate business, the Senate provided nominations for Deputy Provost Lindquist's Academic Integrity Work Group and shared the work that the Senate had completed on this topic over the past 2 years. ABOR held its November meeting at the University of Arizona, November 16th through the 18th. Shirley Rose, President-elect of the Tempe campus, Brenda Hosley, Interim President-elect of Downtown campus, and Chris Kieselka, Senate Secretary, attended along with me. The board welcomed the new regent, Lindell Manson, to her first board meeting. Regent Manson brings to the board experiences with charter school administration and volunteer work with the foster care system. Highlights from the meeting include ABOR's President Klein's remarks on the importance of continuing to work so that our students can receive certainty in residency, in immigration, and in citizenship status. Those remarks were emphasized by consensus of the Arizona Faculty Council, and as their representative, I delivered those comments to the Regents. The Regents appointed 3 ASU faculty as Regents Professor. Congratulations to Robert Nemenich from the Department of Physics, Ann Stone, School of Human Evolution and Social Change, and Paul Westerhoff, School of Sustainable Engineering and the Built Environment. Robert Nemenich is a senator from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. Unfortunately, he is not here today as he is in Boston at a Materials Research Society meeting reporting results on using diamonds for energy and power electronics. ABOR approved additions to the 3 universities' academic plans and capital development plans. These and other ABOR actions are listed on their website, and they do have a synopsis in the news section if you'd like to look at that. I'd like to give congratulations to Sun Devil Athletics on the latest NCAA announcement that recorded an all-time high of 87% graduation success rate for all its student athletes. Sun Devil Athletics has either tied or surpassed its all-time best GSR in each of the past 10 years. And finally, we wish to congratulate Arnold Maltz, who is the past president of the Tempe campus, and from W.P. Carey, who was elected president-elect of the University Senate and chair-elect of the University Academic Council for 17-18. Arnie will assume his role June 1. Okay, now we have the rest of the agenda to go to, and I believe we have Carolyn Harrison with voting items from CAPC.
Thank you. Okay. The following motions will be brought up at the upcoming CAPC meeting on December 1st. This is the first read of the Senate. They will be brought up again at the Senate meeting of January 30th for your final vote. If you have any issues or questions or comments on any of these, we would appreciate having them by the CAPC meeting, but please get them to us before the Senate meeting so we can make sure that they can be addressed. So the following motions will be discussed. A request from the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts, School of Art, for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, a BA in Fashion. Request from Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, the School of Sustainable Engineering and the Built Environment, for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, a BSc in Environmental Engineering. Request from the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts for the establishment of a graduate degree, MS in Integrative Social Science. Request from the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, a BS in Counseling and Applied Psychological Science. Request from the College of Health Solutions for the name change of an undergraduate certificate from Child Nutrition to School Nutrition. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Politics and Global Studies, the establishment of a graduate degree, MA in Global Security. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Human Evolution and Social Change, establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Social Science Research Methods. Request from the new College of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences, School of Social and Behavioral Sciences, for the establishment of a graduate degree, Master of Science in Forensic Psychology, and a request from the new College of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences, the School of Social and Behavioral Sciences, for the establishment of a graduate degree, PhD in Law and Psychology. I now read those quickly, so again, you can go and look at the agenda. We will also be voting on the items in Appendix A this Thursday. If you have any comments or questions on that, please get them to us by Thursday. They will not come up again before the Senate.
Hang on for after this vote, you're going to be there. Okay. New course proposal consent agenda was sent to you on November 14th. The courses to be approved, these courses are to be approved in the total on it as a consent agenda, but first, are there any courses to be removed from the consent agenda? Let me go around to the campuses. Downtown, do you have any courses to be removed?
We do not have any courses to be removed.
Polytechnic.
We have no courses to remove.
West.
We don't have any courses to remove.
Okay. I'll now entertain a motion for approval of Senate Motion 2017-22, new course proposals. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Arnie Malt seconded. Okay. Are we ready for a vote? We have 54 responses. So would you like to take a hand count at the other sites? Okay, let's close it. Yeah, there's 55 responses now. That's considerably less than what we had earlier. Okay, so, okay. We're going to develop another. Sometimes the clickers fall off on us from the remote sites. Technology is great when it works.
Okay. This font is small. It says just click your campus, please. A for downtown, B for Poly, C for Tempe, and D for West Campus. So we can find out whether the clickers are bad. Oh, now we have 80.
See, now we have 82. Okay.
Okay.
83.
Okay, so I'll do it again. Just give me 1 second, Kathy.
Maybe we just didn't have people voting. Happens. Happened in the national election.
New course proposal still counted. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Still coming in. $78. Go ahead and close it. Yeah. Up 79. All right. All right. It clearly passed. 4 abstentions, 2 no, 73 yes. Great. Okay, Caroline, take it away.
Okay, we're now going to vote on the CAPC consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda were all approved at the most recent CAPC meeting. This will be the last time that they are brought up. They will be, before we vote on the consent agenda, I would like to ask if there is anything that anyone would like to have removed. We'll go ahead and go to the campuses first. And the first one is West. Is there anything you would like to have removed from the CAPC consent agenda for further discussion?
No, we don't.
Thank you. Then we'll go to Polly. Is there anything you'd like to have removed from the CAPC consent agenda for further discussion?
No, thank you.
And finally, Downtown. Is there anything you would like to have removed from the CAPC consent agenda for further discussion?
No, we're fine.
Okay, and we have some people on Tempe. Is there anything you would like to have removed from the CAPC consent agenda for further discussion?
Yeah, hi, I'm LaDon Haglund from School of Social Transformation, and I sent an email to, I believe to you and to Charles, asking that a couple of clarifying questions regarding Senate Motion 2017-16 regarding the proposal for the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences to establish a new academic unit, the School of Civic and Economic Thought and Leadership.
So we'd
I'd
like to have that removed for further.
discuss it.
Okay. We will remove that Senate Motion 2017-16. We will remove from the consent agenda for further discussion. Is there anything else to be removed? Okay. Then I'd like to have a motion for someone to accept the for the Senate to accept the CAPC consent agenda minus Motion 2017-16. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Should we go ahead and have the vote, please? Going nice and fast. Okay, close the vote. Okay, so the CAPC agenda has passed, minus that one motion. I do believe we have a representative to help answer the questions on Senate motion. If you could perhaps step up to the microphone here. And I did send those questions ahead of time, so you can front or
my name is Pat Kenny. I'm the Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and the creation of this school will report through me then to the provost. So, any questions?
Hi, Pat.
Phil.
Phil Vandermeer, Emeritus College. I've got a couple of questions, and so looking over the CAPC form and trying to get a sense of the school, since I'm retired, I haven't been as fully engaged in this in the last few months, so perhaps some things have happened without my reading them. Obviously, there already is a program for political leadership, political thought and leadership, and so my first question is, how does this new school connect with, overlap, compete with an existing program which has a certificate program?
So that's a certificate program. This school will offer major and a minor, and we'll leave that certificate program in Shippers for the time being. I think the biggest distinction between them is that this program and the degrees in there will be focused on the Great Books approach, and so the focus there will be on 4 broad philosophical questions, and through the lens of the Great Books, we'll examine those. So the history, I should have brought the list, but here's what they are, I think. The history of political and moral thought, the history of economic thought, the history of the American founding, or the thoughts around the American founding, and then possibilities and problems of leadership. So those themes will be examined through the Great Books, whereas I think as my discussions with your former director and folks in your school is they have a much broader approach to some of those topics, right? They'll cover many more topics rather than focus through the lens of a single great work.
Okay, a second thing was there's nothing in the document about curriculum
And so with 9 faculty, presumably, I don't know what the enrollment projections are because they're not in here either. You're looking at, from what I gather from your description, is an entirely new set of courses.
There'll be some overlap, I think, with courses, but looked at in different ways. But I think there'll be similar courses with new approaches across those 4 themes. So I think there will be a newer curriculum. And we're not that far yet, right? We're just underway.
So is this something that will depend on cross-listing of courses? I guess I'm not sure how that works.
Open to any of that. We're open to all of that. I don't know. We could easily cross-list as long as units want to do that. We don't have any problem. I'm sure that the new director is not going to have any problem with that whatsoever.
I guess I'm wondering if it's as different as you suggest. I'm not clear how cross-listing will work. And I guess I'm wondering about the practicality of getting that many
So a
courses.
student interested in the history of political thought, for instance, right? They may be only looking at it through the lens of Socrates or Plato, but they certainly could cross-list that with a philosophy in the philosophy curriculum. They could cross-list that with politics and global studies, because there's a long tradition in there through the political theorists to look at that. But they might look at a much broader pitch of that, right? But I don't know why students couldn't take both courses or similar courses over that time frame.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, again, LaDawn Haglund from School of Social Transformation. Thanks, Dean Kenny, for responding. I did forward the questions that had emerged from several faculties, and I don't know if you just want to respond to those, because those would be the same questions that I would ask.
So one was on the funding, where the funding was coming from, correct?
So because this is associated with some funding that came through the Charles Koch Foundation, I believe, many faculty members expressed some concern based on some of the at least anecdotal evidence and maybe some harder evidence from some other universities that have accepted Koch funding regarding faculty like who's hired, who has a say in how that hiring is done, how those faculty might be evaluated, and whether in particular they would be required to fulfill the same academic standards as the rest of the faculty, and whether there would be any expectation of what that school will provide from the Koch Foundation and what influence the Koch Foundation might have over what is taught.
Okay, so stay put just in case I forget all those. Okay, so let me there's several with the Koch Foundation. That one's very straightforward to answer, okay? So this funding here is coming from the state legislature. $3 million came from the state legislature and as an appropriation last May. We believe going forward that this will be an annual funding stream for that school. Okay, the 2 centers you're talking about, so the Charles Koch Foundation has partial funding into 2 centers. They're not schools, but 2 centers. One in the Liberal Arts and Sciences and one in the College of Business. Okay, that funding will remain in those centers. And that funding, just like a grant to a center, okay, has it's not sunset by us, but has a period. They're 3 to 5 year funding streams, and they're funding the activities of those centers. So no hiring is going to be funded by the Charles Koch Foundation into this new school. Now, the legislative intent of the legislature was to roll those 2 centers up into this school. And we treat that like any centers in the college. There's over 40 centers in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences or any of the institutes across the university. They either sit in schools, okay, or they sit across schools, and they have reporting lines up through those schools. So they'll report to partially to the new director of this school. Okay, so that one's easy. The funding is actually separate, and those funds won't mingle in any different way than funds in a center from a grant from NIH or NSF or something are in a center supporting activity in that center. Okay, and both of those centers, although the one in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences is a little further along, is basically community outreach based with some research component to it. okay? And the one in business is still kind of coming together, I think is the way to think about that. Now, in both of those centers, there has been funding, so maybe that's where I'm confused, to seed some academic hires for 3 years, is the one on liberal arts and sciences. That went through the normal academic hiring process in Shippers, in the School of Historical, Religious, and Philosophical Inquiry. Went through the normal funding there. And the college then will pick up that hire after the 3rd year, which I believe this is the last year of that. Okay. None of the hires into the new school, though, are restricted in any of those ways. They're hired off of the funding from the state legislature. Okay,
So that, just to clarify, that was
Yeah.
just one hire, the one you were just talking about.
there was one hire so there's been one hire in the new school, and there was one previous hire with the seed funding from the Charles Koch Foundation in the school in liberal arts and sciences.
And then just to make sure I understood, all subsequent hires will not be connected in any way to Koch
Not
funding?
correct.
Just the money that the legislature has earmarked for this?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we targeted, we target hires. Provost is here, so if I misstep, he can help me here. But we tend to target hires for faculty of color sometimes. I'll give you examples. For partner accommodations, for special items like members of the National Academy, for instance. Those tend to be targeted hires where there's not what we would think of as a traditional open competition for those hires. The legislature asked us to report back, asked the university to report back to several legislative committees by October 1st of things we had done. So we got the money in May, and they said, create a new school, hired some people, and let's get this rolling. And you have to let us know how we're doing. So the provost authorized a targeted hire for a new director. We've made that hire. Since there's no school yet, no faculty in the school, we're going to make probably 3 or 4 more targeted hires to get started. And we've asked a couple different schools in liberal arts and sciences if they would like. We've asked them to put a couple faculty members on some search committees to help with those targets. Once we have 3 or 4 faculty, then I think we'll go about the normal kind of hiring practices for that school. And the school then, another question was, what are the criteria that will be used for tenure and promotion, those kinds of things.
Before you go on to that
Yeah.
question, can I ask, are those committees already formed, those hiring committees?
One is formed for
Is
one
the-
person that we're after right now.
Okay. I'm wondering how one gets on such said committee.
Yeah, so we took them out of the fields that would be most impacted. So there's one, this is another
The
political philosopher.
economy, or?
No, this one's a political, so the new director has a design to hire, if all goes well, 3 political historians, 3 political philosophers, 3 political economists. The next hire will be a political philosopher, and so one was asked to be out on the committee from the political theorist from Politics and Global Studies, and a person that studies kind of the history of the area that she's interested in, Montesquieu and some other folks like that, from Shippers. Okay, those 2 are on there. The criteria for tenure and promotion. Once we get some faculty in there, we'll sit down and establish the criteria for tenure and promotion, like any new school or any new that's been created over the last few years, I would say since President Crow came, frankly. We use that approach and set up some criteria for tenure and promotion. Haven't gotten there yet because we've got to wait and see who we get in there.
But you suspect that it will be the same criteria
Yes.
as other
Yeah.
class
Right.
departments? Okay.
So, for example, the political philosopher that's here, I plan to show her the criteria that political philosophers have to meet in the School of Politics and Global Studies. As an example, because she will be taking a job, ideally, without those criteria set up. And I think it'll look something like that for her. That would be the guess. Right?
So then there were the questions about the give and take. I understand that the funding stream for hiring is going to come from the legislature, but are there any further connections with the Koch Foundation?
No, except for the centers that will be in,
Which will be
under.
inside. So is there any expected give back from the new school to those centers?
No, actually, again, the legislature, through its legislative intent, we got to nice couple paragraphs in the legislature explaining what they would like us to do. The legislative intent on that made it clear that university funds could not go into those centers, and the funds that they gave us, and that university funds could not be used anywhere else. So they were very specific. It had to be used only in that school. So we can't use it to provide something for the Charles Koch-funded centers, for instance. Our hands are pretty tied on that, actually.
I think that covers most of the questions that came from our faculties. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you for clarifying a lot of these things. I just want to pick up on something that you said, which is that there was initial funding from the legislature. This is kind of most of the schools in the college and in the university tend to be pretty large, 40, 50 faculty members, that kind of thing. This is going to be 9 faculty members, and then a staff that's more than 50% the size of the faculty. There's like 5 staff members that are anticipated. That's a chunk of change. If the
3 million.
If the legislature decides that they don't want to continue to fund, what happens? Is this something that we're going to lose out? I mean, is the rest of the university going to have to pony up the money?
So, so I've been in some meetings with the provost and the president on that, so I'll answer it, but if I misspeak, the provost can help. So the president has, anticipating maybe that we've all been here a long time, so the legislature comes and goes with its funding, mostly going lately. If they would change that funding stream, the president is dedicated to the idea, and he has committed to fund it out of the rest of our funding base if they would somehow withdraw their support. Is that fair?
Thank you.
Yeah, Mark.
I just want to make a comment. These are very good questions people are asking. I think that it's important to know that the legislature passed this as a base addition to the institution, not as one-time funding. And so we fully expect it's going to continue. Second, I think that Pat may want to elaborate a little bit that we want this school to be of the highest academic caliber possible, so much so that he has recruited a set of advisors from Stanford, Harvard, Notre Dame, and elsewhere to help advise us in terms of making sure that that happens. There is no direction as to what this school is going to look like philosophically from the legislature. We got a name. That's all we got, and money. And so we're responsible for shaping it. We're going to shape this to be the highest quality unit we can. And like other units, it will grow over time if it's successful in terms of drawing student interest and so forth, just through the normal process of growth that starts everywhere. And we have lots of small units, not just all large units. It would be a mistake to think that every unit in class is large.
Some are about this size, actually. 3 off the top of my head. Let me just say something more about that advisory board. So there's 2 political philosophers, one from Harvard, one from Notre Dame. There are, from Hoover/Stanford, there are 2 political, really they're political scientists, really, and 1 political economist who also teaches in their law school. Teaches in the School of Business at Stanford and the law school. The 2 political scientists, 1 teaches in business, 1 teaches in political science. Harvey Mansfield at Harvard teaches in the School of Government, and Catherine Zuckert at Notre Dame teaches in the School of Philosophy, Politics, basically. So those are the 5 advisory board members who nudged us toward the Great Books curriculum, actually. Hoover has experimented with it at Stanford, has had some success, made us some good recommendations for us. Some things to change that they thought they could have done differently. And so there are a number of great books approaches throughout the United States, but none with a major. So we'll be the first with a major. And your questions about whether students will be interested in that, we'll find out. We don't know yet. Yeah.
I'm Dave Wallace. This might be a question more for Provost Searle, because this was not part of the university's budget request. It was something that the legislature decided to do on their own. And I'm quite concerned about that kind of imposition by the legislature, especially when they're not funding half of the costs of resident students, and where this might go. And I know the university is in a difficult political spot because the way the legislature has decided not to fund the universities, and so, but their intention is to have this to be a conservative ideological center. That's why our conservative Republicans passed it. And so I know you're dancing around the academic piece of it, but that's just my overall thrust concern, is that they're imposing something onto the universities when they're actually not even living up to their main financial obligations to the universities. And again, this might be a better question for Provost.
Yeah, the only thing I would say to that is Mark can answer the funding part, but the dancing around, we're trying not to dance around that. I do think the curriculum will be an interesting curriculum taught by some really talented people. This is a really crowded, those three areas, political history, political philosophy, and political economy, are incredibly tight academic job markets. The people we're targeting are at really good places that may want to come here and teach, right? So I'll give you some names, except they're under targeted consideration, but I think you would be impressed by who we're hiring, who we were trying to hire into that space. So since they left, that might have been their intention in some of their debates, but they left it open enough for us to do it in, I think, a very careful and academic way. What we've really tried to stay away from is a policy school that would fall into debates over immigration. Let's pick one. We didn't want it to turn into a CNN, show you watch at night, or a Fox News. That's what we tried to stay away from. Right? So I think it'll actually be quite rigorous. One of the interests that's popping up already is in the Barrett Honors College. There's some students there interested in double majoring in it. Okay, so we're actually trying not to dance around. We're trying to land right as academically as rigorous as possible. That's why when I sought out to create this board, we really went to top-notch folks. These are really good folks. If you read their work, you can go online, I can send you their names. If you read their work, you will not see in there, I don't think, a partisan slant in there. I really don't. A couple are Straussians from the University of Chicago, and so there, if you're familiar with that kind of work, they really dive into the text, and then when they get into the text, they take it in different directions. That opens the door for them to maybe move it a little bit more liberal or conservative. But the others are pretty straightforward. A couple are pretty hardcore empiricists, actually, the ones at Stanford. All three, actually. So we're trying not to do that. Since the President tasked us with that, we're trying not to do that.
To Dave's comment, first of all, to reinforce what Pat just said, our effort is strictly on quality. This is not about developing a school for the left or the right. It's a different area, a niche area that we think we can do, and it seems strange to me that a lot of the elite private universities can do this very well, and we're not, and here's an opportunity to do it. Granted, it's not the way we would have liked the money to come, Dave, but it came. It doesn't come with any strings as to how we create the excellence that we're going to do in the school. And with that, we're running ahead to do what we want to do. And we have briefed the governor on what we're doing, because we were required to under the legislation, and all we got back was positives. And that they're not saying that this is somehow not what they wanted, or that this is something to be something else. So they're happy with the direction and the kinds of intellectual direction we're taking with this. As far as the money goes, on the big picture, $3 million is a lot of money to you and me. However, we spend about $2.7 billion here at ASU. So if I had to find $3 million in a pinch, I'm pretty sure I can find it. I would like to kind of assuage that as an issue one way or another. But we don't often get them to give us money. And so I hate to look a gift horse in the mouth, because we have this money and we can run with it, and we can do something pretty spectacular with it. Will be quite interesting.
Well, one aspect that's been in the paper that might help cause some confusion is they gave, Mark, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they gave $3 million to ASU, $2 million to the U of A, and those $2 million did go to their center. That's funded. That was initially seeded by the Charles Koch Foundation. So they didn't do that here. They could have. In other words, another option would be to give that $3 million to the Center in Business, split it or something, and the Center in Liberal Arts Science. They didn't do that here.
Just one more comment that occurred to me. I'm very glad to hear about the high quality of people that you have on the board. That's encouraging. And I would like to mention that there are probably several faculty in social transformation who have expertise in political philosophy and political economy that might have some good suggestions for hires as well, if you're interested.
Great, thanks. Thanks, appreciate that. And to be clear, we've hired one person. Okay, so well, we're hoping to hire more, but we've hired one.
Okay, I want to make sure we can...
Very briefly,
Thank
Crystal Griffith, School of Film, Dance, and Theater. What does this have to do with poli-sci? Very simply, I think this is a excellent discussion that we're having, and I just hope that we can work with the legislature to try to get support in other areas that we need it. And I also want to put another recommendation for the fantastic faculty, the very large School of Social Transformation that should, I think, be on some of these committees. I think they have a lot to offer. I'm not in that department, so I feel perfectly fine saying that. Thank you.
Right, so we hope to form, the search committees hope to form across schools as people want to be in them. But that's a great point. Well, and we'll be careful about that. Also, there's no reason why people couldn't put part of their appointment in there if they wanted to from any of these schools, as long as it's fit. Man, we do that a lot at the in the college. We do that all the time, so that would be okay with us.
Should we just quickly check if any other questions or? Okay, so let's go ahead and call for the vote while we still have a quorum. Can somebody please?
Sorry.
Was there a comment or question coming? Okay. So could I please have a motion to approve the Senate Motion 201716, the establishment of the School of Civic and Economic Thought and Leadership?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Okay, let's go ahead and call the vote. Hope we have everyone. Seem to have stopped, so let's go ahead and see the results. And the motion has passed. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great discussion. We have two quick committee reports. Donna Cataldo, Learning Management System update.
Hi, and I will make this very brief because I know it's getting late. Just a quick update on the learning management systems. First, there has been no decision as to which system will be used, if it will be still Blackboard or Canvas. So we are still going through and piloting both systems, and people are still encouraged to enroll. We only currently have 158 faculty and staff out of all of our campuses piloting one or the other system. So I do encourage people to go ahead and please become engaged. We have not yet decided, and so, you know, if you become involved, at least you can have a say in how we choose. We will be selecting a new LMS system by spring of 2017. So yes, that is coming up quickly. There will be the new system, whether it's Blackboard or Canvas, will become available summer of 2018. But we can start porting over courses. There'll be a full year to port over classes once the decision has been made. And I can, again, forward that link to Kathleen, and we can send that out to everybody. But again, it's just the uto.asu.edu, and you can still join the shareholders and have at least a say in what it is. And there are also 2 videos posted from the latest stakeholders meeting about feedback on each system. And if you watch either of those, they'll probably ask you for feedback as well. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. And Chris, you want to give a little plug for the survey?
The next meeting of the Committee on Committees will take place in early January, and at that time, our committee will be reviewing the nominations for the spring academic assembly elections. Every spring, each campus puts forward nominees for their new campus president-elect, as well as new members for the Committee on Academic Freedom and Tenure, the Governance Grievance Committee, as well as the Academic Professional Grievance Committee. So the Academic Assembly will be receiving a survey this week. You might have received that today. And Senators, if you would, please respond and encourage your colleagues and departments as well to participate in this most important nominations process. The committee is looking forward to receiving your nominations. Thank you very much for participating.
Campus leadership's really, it's fun. So please, look at your colleagues and those who might have a spark of leadership. Please encourage them to go forward. We're now ready for open forum. I'm going to go to the various campuses, the people. Boy, West, you look like a big table with two people there. I'm going to go to you first. Anything for open forum?
No, our members have to go teach class and take care of family members, so we don't have anything for open forum.
Thank you very much. Polytechnic.
We don't have anything.
Okay. Downtown?
We're fine, thank you.
Looks like Tempe, there's no one at the mic. So I will then ask for a motion to adjourn. So moved. The meeting is ended. Thank you.